I almost didn't post this today. I sat with it for 3 days because I know not everyone is in a place to receive what I'm about to say. Some of you are still in the wound, still tender, still trying to make sense of what happened. But this word wouldn't leave me alone. And every time I thought about holding it back, I felt that specific kind of urgency, the kind that tells you someone needs this right now. So if this lands on your feed today, I need you to understand that is not a coincidence. The people who worked the hardest to remove you from their lives, the ones who organized the exit, drafted the narrative, made sure you were the villain in the story, those are the same people who cannot stop talking about you. Not because they miss you, not because they regret it, because God started talking. And what He started saying about you, He started saying out loud, in rooms, to people, in opportunities and open doors and moments of favor that are impossible to explain naturally. And they are watching it, every single one of them. You've been dismissed. Let me be specific about what that looked like. Maybe it was at work. You were passed over, overlooked, quietly managed out while someone with less competence and more politics moved up. Maybe it was in a friendship group, a circle you had invested years into, where one day you realized the group chat had moved on without you, and your name was only brought up when someone needed a target. Maybe it was family, the most painful kind, the dismissal that happens around a dinner table, in holiday conversations, in the casual cruelty of people who are supposed to be your people, treating you like you were the problem. And in every version of this story, work, friendship, family, romantic relationship, church, community, there is always the same experience, the feeling of being systematically reduced, managed down, made small. You started to believe what they implied, that you were difficult, that you were too much, that your gifts were actually liabilities, that the problem was you. And the most devastating part, you started editing yourself, trying to become something they would accept, removing pieces of who you were, apologizing for instincts that were actually accurate, shrinking to fit a space that was never designed for someone like you. Here is what I need you to understand about what was actually happening in those seasons. When people sense something anointed on your life, a gift, a calling, a frequency they cannot access or replicate, there are only two responses available to them. They either celebrate it or they try to contain it. And the people who tried to contain you, push you out, reduce you, silence you, they were not doing it from a position of strength. They were doing it from a position of threat. Your existence in that space was a mirror, and what the mirror showed them about their own mediocrity, their own limitations, their own unfulfilled potential was something they could not live with peacefully. So they didn't attack you because you were the problem. They attacked you because you were the evidence. Evidence of what was possible. Evidence of what they had chosen not to become. Evidence that the gap between where they were and where they could have been was real, and it had a name, and that name was you. This is why gifted people are always the most targeted in ordinary environments. You don't attack what doesn't matter. You attack what threatens the story you've been telling yourself. And I won't minimize the cost of carrying that. There was a season where you questioned everything, where you sat with the rejection and let it teach you the wrong lessons, where you internalized the narrative they built about you and wore it like it was true. Maybe there were nights where the weight of it was physical, a heaviness in your chest that didn't lift, an inability to sleep because your mind kept reviewing the evidence, what you said, what you should have said, what they did, what it meant. Maybe you lost things in that season, real things, opportunities, income, relationships that mattered, years, actual years of your life spent in spaces that were grinding you down rather than building you up. And maybe the cruelest part of it was this: you kept trying to earn your way back into favor that was never genuinely offered in the first place. You kept performing for an audience that had already decided how the story ended. That pain is real. It happened. And before we talk about what God is doing now, I want to acknowledge that it cost you something you will never fully get back, and the grief of that is valid.
But God was watching the whole time. Not passively, not from a distance. He was in it with you, in the rejection, in the cost, in the nights, in the grief, and He was building a record. Because here is what most people don't understand about how God operates. He doesn't just see the injustice, He catalogs it. He records every false accusation, every unfair treatment, every door that was closed by human hands when He had given the instruction to open it. He remembers what you lost and what it cost you and who was responsible. And now, He's talking. Into the right rooms, to the right people, in favor that arrives from directions no one could have predicted, in opportunities that open without your effort, in the words of people who have never met you, saying your name with a kind of weight and recognition that could only come from heaven. The same mouth that whispered lies about you in the dark will be the same mouth that has to announce your blessing in the light. You don't need to defend yourself. You never needed to. God is the defense, and He has been building your case in the heavenly courts while they were busy organizing your downfall. The verdict was already in before the trial began, and the verdict is in your favor. Here is what I want you to do with this information. Stop reopening the case. Stop rehearsing the evidence. Stop calculating the debt that is owed to you by the people who wronged you. Hand the case file to God completely and finally, and trust that the attorney you have is better than any retaliation you could organize yourself. Because God's justice is precise. It doesn't just restore, it reveals. It doesn't just vindicate, it educates. Every person who was complicit in what was done to you will have a specific, undeniable encounter with the truth of what they did, not for their punishment, for their awakening. And your job is to be so far forward by then that when the vindication comes, you almost miss it, because you were too busy living the life that God was building while they were watching. If this resonated with you, if you have been dismissed, pushed out, organized against, reduced, or made to feel like the problem in a space that was actually the problem, I need you to comment the word vindicated right now. Not because I need the engagement, because I want the word vindicated to be something you type with your own hands and your own intention and let it land in your spirit as a statement of where this story is going. Comment vindicated. And then subscribe, because I am doing a follow-up to this video next week specifically about the spiritual signs that God is actively working on your behalf right now, even in the middle of the waiting, even when you cannot see the movement. You don't want to miss that. I'll see you there.